dungeon. So let's begin with the jungle region, shall we? Let's begin with the jungle region. Hey, mate. Let's begin with the jungle region. Then I will, at the end of the stream, I'll Google once again the location, because it's a hidden location. It's over there, but you have to find some kind of temple. I don't know where, but if you find it, it's a secret location. Oh well, we'll do that one. But today I also want you to find the secret switch. So let's start with the jungle region. Straight up, people. As you know, we are doing a modded campaign, which involves both the evil and the good side quests of the game. That's why we have access to both of them, as you can see. And as I continue with my analysis for today, we will do the... I wanted to talk about the relationship between the usage of potions and the gameplay mechanics from this new perspective, now that we have the endgame gameplay mechanics, and also about the skill tree system and how they perfectly relate, all of them between each other. There you are, it's nice to see you. Well, Shirka, shall we strike now? They're going to attack me or what? Remember, there was a plot twist. Spoiler alert, if you don't want to have spoilers. Shirka Alana is... I don't have room. When you're doing the evil campaign, Shirka Alana is your... I'm giving you time to escape the spoiler alert in case you're watching this as a YouTube pod. It's your daughter, pretty much, and you discover that it's quite conflictive. And well, as you can see, if I hadn't said it, she was going to say it. Father, the things you've told me about working with the Inquisition and their plans to dominate the world, it's scaring to me. How can you betray everything we believe in? It's true, I was a thief. Yes, I killed, but I would never plunge the world into ruin. Well, I would argue that the Inquisition at least protects humans against the leaks of T energy. So I commented this. I love, as you know, I read a lot about European history, because basically, as you know, Argentina basically has European education, because we never cut our cultural ties with Italy. And pretty much, I mentioned some streams ago, you'll see, we'll get into the history part then, but it's related to this, trust me. I briefly commented it 2 weeks ago. The truth is, Samuel and I were arrested for thievery in Thylesium not long after we were reunited. In exchange for our lives, we were... What's going on there? In exchange for our lives, Inquisition plot. We were recruited as spies to help uncover the Inquisition plot, and I could have imagined it would lead me back to you. I'm sorry, but we have to take you in. Please don't resist. It's 2 against 1. Yeah. Nice try. Nice try. That was easy, a one-hit kill. But we didn't kill her. Look at that. Now this will be interesting. We are getting another plot twist, people. We are getting another plot twist. She was a spy. Let's see. I don't know why you are sparing us. When we meet again, we'll fight you with any means necessary. What a glorious day for me. Look, Shirka, if the double garganthropod didn't kill me on Thursday, it did kill me twice. If it couldn't permanently kill me while trying to beat it on Thursday, I assure you that one was the highest difficulty spike of the game, together with the Ice Hydra of the... I don't know if it's part of the expansion. I still don't know if it's part of the expansion, people, but the Ice Hydra, since it had a nasty debuff ability, it was also pretty powerful. But the double garganthropod was quite powerful. Remember, we are going up against 2 world bosses instead of 1, because of our modded version of the game, right? But trust me, the garganthropod is definitely a difficulty spike.
However, it's protected by KRAL of the winged demons, a terrible flying monster. And so far, we haven't found a way past this guardian. Oh, the building is so instructive. You can see the cruel and warlike mentality of the builders everywhere in the architecture. Even the ornaments are of an evil alignment. I know that my colleague over there disagrees, but he's a young fool who doesn't recognize the signs. Do you want to try and reach the site? I can show you the way. Maybe you can even kill the Guardian, then we could find all the secrets it holds.
I'll take a look at that monster. You better stay here.
The Shirkalana quest is the good side quest. This is the evil side quest. In case I'm giving you a recap because basically here the two quests are intertwined. If you don't mod the game, you won't get both of them. You'll get half of the story. But if you mod the game, you'll have access to both of them. So let me see. Do we have any other quest to grab over here at the entrance of the jungle? No, not at all. What do we have? We officially begin the jungle region with our first quest. Over here, we pretty much have no quests. We'll follow, as we did with the desert region people, we'll get to the main settlement, which appears to be this one, the Forgotten City, and from there we will expand to all sections of the jungle. Remember, today we will try to do the secret, to find the secret switch that will activate the secret developer dungeon over at this plateau. But we'll leave that and the Harpy Queen nest that we were looking for the end of the stream, because it will take me time to find them and it'll be at a much slower pace, so we'll leave those for later. We begin, people, onwards to Forgotten City as we get into the section of the analysis that I wanted to cover today. Last time, as I've said, and we did pretty much a recap in the first 40 minutes of the stream, pretty much the relationship between that two-pronged system. Let me finish it because we didn't compare it. Sacred 2 has a superior system when compared to Dark Souls in the reward/punishment element of the economic system of the game. Because that two-pronged system, which is directly linked to the gameplay mechanics, the fact that you have to go back and search for your souls in the case of Dark Souls, and search for your, for example, in the case of World of Warcraft, you have to, as I've said, pay for the degradation of your gear, for the durability of your gear once you get killed. If you don't, the other one was a fetch quest to get the panther's fur there. That relationship, as I've said, in the case of World of Warcraft, in the case of Dark Souls, it's at specific points. You go up against the huge bad boss of the area, you get killed, you go back to your corpse and recover the economic punishment that you suffered. Your souls, either your souls or your the durability of your gear. In the case of World of Warcraft, you don't pay for the durability of your gear. Right. In the case of Sacred 2, objectively, the system is much more superior. Why? Because the punishment, I know it's an extremely abstract concept, but the economic punishment is continuous. It's absolutely continuous. The negative proportion of your income, of your in-game currency, of the income of your in-game currency is continuous. It's not that you get killed at a specific boss, you go back, recover your corpse, and that's it. It's not like that. At the beginning of the series, I was mentioning precisely that I got permanently killed, and my income was all spent just to survive the economic punishment of the game. Well, I don't know why, but for some reason Twitch today doesn't allow me to watch my own stream. Oh well. The connection is not broken, at least, so we'll see. The connection is not broken, but well, for some reason it's not allowing me to watch my own stream. Alright. We did all of them, right? Huh? I don't know what that quest is about there. That side quest has no reference there. Oh well. So, at this point we should compare games with these two-dimensional, two-pronged systems. If we compare Dark Souls with Sacred 2, the system in Sacred 2 is superior. Why? Because it's continuous. The economic punishment is continuous. The negative proportion of your income is continuous. If you don't learn the gameplay mechanics, the abstract complexity of the gameplay mechanics, it's continuous. You will have to spend all of your money, like what happened to me at the beginning of the series, constantly buying potions and buying potions. You remember at the beginning of the series, people, that I was constantly buying potions, just to survive. But the real reason behind it was that I didn't understand the naming conventions of the game. I didn't know that accuracy was called attack value and evasion was actually called defense value. Because of that, because I didn't know even the most basic abstract complexity of the gameplay mechanics, because of that, the direct consequence was that I had a continuous, a perpetual, a constant negative proportion of my income, of my in-game currency income. And that system, objectively, is much more efficient at teaching the player the gameplay mechanics when compared to Dark Souls. Why? Because in Dark Souls, you can get to a point in which you can beat a lot of enemies without understanding the gameplay mechanics. You can beat the mobs, as we usually say. You can beat the mobs. But in the case of Sacred 2, while you can beat the mobs, you can power your way through the game without understanding the abstract complexity of the gameplay mechanics. While you can do that, we get the first foothold on the region, on the jungle region, people. While you can do that, you will still have that negative proportion. And it will be constant instead of specific. That's the huge difference. In Sacred 2, your negative proportion, you will always be losing money. You will always be losing more money than your income. That's the negative proportion that I'm mentioning. If you don't understand the gameplay mechanics, you'll have to spend a lot of money on potions to survive because you don't understand the extra complexity of the gameplay mechanics. And the direct consequence of that economic system, it's embedded in a much more efficient way with the gameplay mechanics. I know it's an extremely complex mental model, but you'll see that you can see that it has an impact. In Sacred 2, you cannot develop an economy at all. You cannot save gold at all. You'll always remain at 0 gold if you don't understand the abstract complexity of the gameplay mechanics. Right? There's no middle ground, to be precise. There's no middle ground at all. Because of this two-dimensional, two-pronged economic relationship between the economic system of the game and the gameplay mechanics. But if we compare games with those two-dimensional systems, as I've said, Dark Souls and Sacred 2, at this point we need to measure the efficiency of that relationship between the economic system and the gameplay mechanics. What's more efficient, people? Forcing the player to go back to a corpse and recover the souls, like in Dark Souls, or creating this continuous negative economic flow that forces the player to survive in an efficient way. I think the system in Sacred 2 is much more effective, as I've said, because of that last element, because it's continuous. It's continuous. The pressure is continuous. If I had to make an extrapolated example, I would mention regarding another topic of the analysis, Metroid Prime. In Metroid Prime, it's so magnificent. Metroid Prime is so magnificent. By the way, Metroid Prime 4 was announced. It's so magnificent because the atmosphere has a permanent feeling of oppressiveness. It's the constant oppressiveness of the atmosphere. Granted, I'm not talking about an economic relationship in this case, but I'm talking about the ambience. It's that constant feeling of oppression. If you played Metroid Prime, you'll understand it. In the case of Sacred 2, it takes that same philosophical development philosophy, and applies it to the economic system. It's oppressive. Sacred 2 feels oppressive, economically oppressive. Dark Souls 2 may recreate a portion of that feeling, but it's not continuous. It's at specific choke points, let's call them. The big bad boss that you have to beat, that's the choke point. Sacred 2 does not work like that psychologically. At this point, we are talking about how the game manages the psychological pressure on the player in terms of the economic system in this case. Because that will influence the sense of progression that I was mentioning at the end of the previous stream, and I wanted to cover it a bit more in depth because I ran out of time on Thursday. The psychological impact is different in Sacred 2 when compared to Dark Souls. If you think about it, the constant feeling of oppression in Sacred 2 is much more efficient at creating that psychological sense of progression on the player. I mentioned this at the end of the previous stream, but well, it was at the end of 4 hours. So pretty much I didn't have a lot of energy. That's why I wanted to comment this in depth. Pretty much that sense of progression. When we talk about sense of progression, most reviewers remember, they always say addictiveness, how addictive the game is, and if it's addictive, it's good. If it's not addictive, it's not good. That's pretty much the conclusion that most professional gaming reviewers say, that they make analyses that are not as in-depth as the one that I'm commenting, because at this point we are getting into the psychological impact on the player. When they say the game is addictive or the game isn't addictive, what are they actually trying to say, but they cannot convey it with logical words? They are trying to say that the sense of progression is properly implemented, that psychologically the sense of progression of the game is positively affecting the player's psychology. In the case of Sacred 2, and I realized this after dying 463 times, after getting through the early game gameplay mechanics and the mid game gameplay mechanics and getting to the end game gameplay mechanics, I realized that it's far deeper than that. In the case of Sacred 2, it's an oppressive economic system, an oppressive relationship between the economic system of the game and the gameplay mechanics. If you don't know the gameplay mechanics, you will always be at zero gold. You can check out the first streams that we did over at YouTube. You have the full collection, you have the full bots, and you'll see that besides dying 463 times, I've been checking them, that's why I can tell you this, because I've been paying attention. I went back to pay attention to this element, to this economic relationship, and you will see that my gold was always at zero. It was always at zero. I would spend all of my gold just buying potions, because I couldn't survive even the most basic of enemy encounters. Hey, looks like this region doesn't have a civilized main city that we can have access to. If you check out the first streams, you'll notice pretty good enemy variety, by the way, yeah? What's my chance of hitting these guys? 66. That's pretty low compared to what I usually... to the damage that I usually deal. But they have a 20% hit chance on me. Hey, is that 66? I think this is way too much for 66. I'm missing way too many attacks for this to be 66, guys. No, but it could be, huh? They have pretty high defense. Flying Demon. Ah, they have all types of resistances. Look at that down there. They have all types of elemental resistances. Pretty powerful mobs here. They are level what? 69, the same as mine. This reminds me of the double Garganthropod fight. We can do it, but I'll have to use the Sludge Spirit. Damn it. Mobs first. Damn it, look at that. Interesting. Let's try Clustering Maelstrom. With Laminar Ray. There we go, that one worked. Oof. Careful, 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 careful. There we go. Amazing enemy variety. This is related to another topic that we analyzed some streams ago. The incredible enemy variety of the game. Not only is affected, is perfectly affected by the stat system, in the sense that the enemies use the same stat system as the player, and it's perfectly intertwined with the gameplay mechanics of the game. You could see that they have evasion chance, just like I do. It's absolutely incredible. And the elemental resistances are perfectly recreated. But it's amazing how they they force the player to adapt to different gameplay styles. Like, you could see that in, for example, in Diablo 3 or Diablo 2, especially in Diablo 3, a lot of enemies feel kind of like copy-pasted. They feel like copy-pasted, no in terms of the aesthetics, but the gameplay mechanics, that you dispatch them using the same strategy, always. And in the case of Sacred 2, it has a lot of variety in terms of how you have to approach enemies. For example, you could see that in the Garganthropod, the double Garganthropod fight that we did last time, because that enemy dealt so much damage that I had to take a more defensive stance to deal with it. The same for the Ice Hydra. But in the case of the dragons, since the dragons fly and are more defensive, and they evade your attacks, you have to take a much more aggressive stance to deal with that type of enemy. It's incredible how enemy variety perfectly influences the gameplay mechanics of the game. But going back to the economic relationship, so we can close that chapter and begin with the topic that I have for today, which is the skill tree and the gameplay system. People, if we compare Dark Souls and we compare Sacred 2, the degree of efficiency of the psychological impact, I know it's extremely abstract, I know it's an extremely abstract mental model to think about, guys, but it's neat. Hey, we begin with the world boss, KRAL of the Winged Demons. Well, let's do it. It does have... See? That's what I told you. This is the boss of the area. And see that we are going up against two of them. Well, we'll leave the analysis for a bit later. We are going up against two of them instead of one, because we are playing a modded version of the game that has kind of like the evil quest and the good side quest. Now let's see if I can deal with them. I think these ones will kick my... They'll kick my ass. But let's see if up until now our progression with the game helps us with dealing with them. Let me see, they have all types of resistances, but it's pretty much magic resistance, the one they are weak against. Let's see if we can do it. Remember, you can only reach this level of difficulty if you mod your game, alright? They have lasers, they have fucking lasers, people. They have fucking lasers. You can only play against two of them if you play this modded version of the game. Let's go for this Sludge Spirit. Damn it. I need to remember the one that I'm targeting. Shit. What's going on? They are getting crazy. The Sludge Spirit, come on. Damn it, the pathfinding gods have abandoned us. What's going on?
Confuse bravery with madness.
They got stuck. Or I got stuck. What the? There you go. Move it. What the? Looks like we have to attack those energy stations. Looks like we have to attack those energy stations. Alright. I am definitely dealing damage, as you can see there, but no. Are they taking damage? Yeah, they got stuck in midair. What the?
This won't be easy for you.
They got stuck in midair. Well, we cannot have this fight. This is way too easy for me. I could just kill them. Hang on a second. The physics got all mixed up. Let's try to re-enter, see if it works. Because otherwise, what's the point? It's not interesting if we can kill them right away. It's the first time that it happens. It's the first time it happens to me. To have two of the world bosses. It's probably because they fly. Because up until now, this is the first flying boss fight I've seen so far. Let me re-enter. We'll spawn at the very same location. Hang on. I don't want an easy fight. That would be a pile of. That would be disappointing. Let me see. Let me see if we re-enter. If we can. What's this? Rewards enabled on your channel. Subscribe to earn rewards. No, thank you. There we go. I don't know why it's giving me a lot of weird messages. There we go. Well, whatever. As I was mentioning, people. We'll get to the analysis once we. I also wanted to highlight something about the historical context of the desert region and how the fact that the developers of the game were European, it had a perfect influence on the game and the map that we mentioned at the beginning of the series. That the amount of cultural influence and perfectly depicted scenarios and history benefits greatly from being a European developed game, because you can see that the map is a perfect recreation of Europe, for example, and the degree of detail. There we go. There they are. Don't get. You know what? I'll give them an advantage. I won't. I'll try not to move, so they don't get stuck. We'll attack this one. What's my horse doing here? We'll attack this one. Like that. Please don't get stuck. I want to have a fair fight against both of you. I want to prove that my skill tree is the best, and that I master the gameplay mechanics of the game. I need to prove it, people. I need to prove that we've understood the endgame gameplay mechanics of the game. Otherwise, what's the point of analyzing the game? Otherwise, I would be an idiot. Alright, let's do it. Let's do it, people. So it's called KRAL of the Winged Demons. It's a demon. It has all types of resistances, but ooh, they killed the doppelganger. Careful, careful, that was close. Careful, the double garganthropod was tough, but this one, we shouldn't underestimate it. Then we'll take a look at the evasion chance if we survive this fight. Let's go for this Lodge Spirit. Quickly, without this Lodge Spirit, there's nothing we can do. Come on. No, don't get stuck. Don't get stuck. The other one at least is still attacking me. There we go. That's right, attack. Aren't they? Ooh. Ah, looks like they were trying to go to that monolith over there. Or they are attacking my doppelganger. Don't run away. Yeah, they are doing something with that monolith. They're trying to do something with that monolith. Yeah, they are recharging something. Yeah, they are definitely attacking. That's not. One down, one to go. They were trying to recharge some kind of energy with that monolith. Because my doppelganger is also attacking them. Look at that. Look at that over there. Alright, let's see now. Give me this Lodge Spirit. I don't know how that horse survived the... It's because the enemies don't have an area of effect attack, otherwise that horse would be dead right away. See, it's trying to recharge some shit. Ah, it's healing! Oh, that one was healing previously. Oh, then this is a pretty hard boss fight. You are just not seeing it because of the insane amount of damage that I'm dealing. But it has to be... You know what this thing looks like? It looks like the... what was the unit in StarCraft?
I only need to help.
The one that the Zerg use. Damn it. I'm a Protoss player, in case you are wondering, so yeah, I don't know that one a lot. But yeah, the one that in StarCraft 2 that sends the Zerglings. Not the Roach, not the one that you can morph. Damn it. I can't remember the name. The...
Repent, child. Repent.
well, whatever. Then I will Google it. I hate it when I don't remember those details of different games.
Do I look like a pack mule to you?
As you can see, people, we can do a double demon boss fight easily and deal with them without any kind of issue. Let me see their evasion. They had a chance to hit me of 41 and I had a chance to hit them of 44. Pretty much. Hey, what's that?
Do I look like a pack mule to you?
Ah, it's a shield. Damn it, would have been good. Make some room quickly before they disappear, before the loot disappears. And as you can see, people, that was probably a pretty difficult boss fight under normal circumstances, because they would recover health constantly. But yeah, we are just too cool for school. Yeah, too cool for school, people. Now you are never too cool for school. Education rules the nation. Old British saying. Education rules the nation. But yeah, I love the rhythm there. All right, going back to what I was mentioning, the economic relationship and the reward punishment system. Hey, looks like we're not done. Something is being attacked there. The economic relationship. Why is Sacred 2's economic system... Sorry, why is the reward slash punishment system embedded into the economic system of the game more efficient at psychologically creating a sense of progression on the player? Why? Why is it more effective than other games with that two-pronged system like Dark Souls? We already know that it's more efficient than games with a one-dimensional system with only the cost of opportunity as the only economic element that psychologically impacts the player. As I've said, in Diablo 3, when you get killed, you just lost the cost of opportunity. Psychologically, you only lost the time and the cost of opportunity of killing the boss and getting the loot. In the case of Sacred 2 and the others, and Sacred and Dark Souls and the rest of them, okay, looks like there's nothing else in this region or what? The objective marker says to go through that cave. I wanted to explore the place. There should be another civilization or not. Well, who knows? Let's follow the marker for now. Let's proceed with the main story. I mean, I don't see any other section of the map to go to. There, that entrance. Games with only one-dimensional systems, as I've said, with only that cost of opportunity, like Diablo 3, objectively, there's no way they can compete against Dark Souls and World of Warcraft and Sacred 2. If we compare two-pronged games with two-dimensional punishment systems, like Dark Souls and Sacred 2, Sacred 2, as a conclusion, I think is more effective at psychologically creating that sense of progression on the player because it's continuous. Because of that negative proportion, the negative proportion it creates in the economic system of the game. It directly affects the gameplay mechanics. If you don't understand the gameplay mechanics and you barely survive enemy encounters, you'll have to be constantly buying potions, and the direct result of that is that you won't be able to save money. You'll have a negative income of the in-game currency. You won't be able to save gold. If you cannot save gold, and this leads me into the topic of today, precisely see how I perfectly intertwine them. Oh, I'm so proud of myself here. Perfectly related to... Yeah, it was an enemy, that energy station, look at that. Player's chance to hit 85, opponent's chance to hit 17, sorry. And there we go, they had a... And the other one, because we went up against two of them. 44, 41. They are not the same, they are randomly generated, in case you're wondering. As a conclusion, I think Secret 2 system is more effective because it creates an extra psychological, continuous feeling of oppression on the player when compared to Dark Souls. Because you're constantly losing income when compared to Dark Souls, which is at a specific choke points. Dark Souls system is a specific choke points. The big bad boss kills you, you go back to your corpse, you recover your souls. And pretty much that's it. Here, it's continuous. The oppression, the psychological oppression is continuous. I could never save... I could never save money, I could never save gold in this game until I didn't learn the gameplay mechanics. I could never have a positive proportion of the economic system of the game. I think it's masterfully designed, and I think we don't appreciate those details enough. And as I've said, clearly the German developers over at Ascaron had a perfect and masterful plan of what they were going to do. They had a perfect idea, because achieving this degree of precision in terms of the economic reward punishment element of the game, it's extremely difficult. How do you measure how much the player will loot in order to ensure that until... Look at the calculation that they had to do. Look at the... Think about the abstract model that they had to design in their heads to effectively create this system, people. This is something that reviewers sadly, and most streamers and players don't appreciate. And it's absolutely sad, because the abstract complexity of implementing this system, the difficulty that the German developers over at Ascaron had to go through to implement this system was much higher. The complexity of the abstract mental model is much higher. You have to design a system in which the player has to loot, but you need to ensure that if the player doesn't understand the gameplay mechanics, you need to ensure that the proportion is negative. And that's extremely difficult in a game with randomly generated income, with randomly generated loot, because you don't know. At the end of the day, you won't know. Just like in Borderlands, just like in Diablo 3 games with procedurally generated loot. The objective was over there. You don't know how much the player will be able to loot. But somehow here they managed to measure... I have to interact with the pillar. Oh. They somehow managed to measure the degree of complexity and the point at which the player would break that negative economic proportion of the game. The point at which the player would understand the gameplay mechanics and create a positive proportion of that income. That the player would loot, would be properly rewarded when he actually understood the gameplay mechanics. It's extremely difficult to do, people, to create this abstract mental model.
There is kindness in cruelty.
Pretty much that's it. This is the main quest, people of the game. We're finally doing the main quest. it feels like an eternity. Like an eternity. So yes, as a conclusion, as we proceed with the story, and the economic system that we started on Tuesday of last week, It's incredible how the developers were so incredibly talented that they managed to create an economic system in which they could perfectly measure the point in which the player, or at which the player, would achieve abstract mastery of the game in his mind. And from that point, they established a perfect punishment system in the case of the early game gameplay mechanics, and a perfect reward system. As you can see, once I understood the gameplay mechanics, I have 14 million gold. A perfect reward, a perfect punishment for the early game gameplay mechanics, and a perfect reward system perfectly working coordinately in tandem, so that the player gets a perfect sense of progression. See that it all leads back to the psychological impact that the objective gameplay mechanics have on the player. It's not a matter of being subjective, people, as I always say, of mental perception. If I just tell you the game is addictive, imagine if I told you this, as I always say, the game is addictive, and that's it. That's pretty much my only explanation of it, of why the gameplay mechanics are good or bad. It's addictive or it's not addictive. That's generally how reviewers deal with the psychological sense of progression. It's addictive or it's not addictive. That's it. That is what I always mention about relativism and the impact
Your
on
knowledge of deceit and perfidy will help you reach your goal.
that has influenced game reviews besides society as a whole. When you put the focus of your analysis on the subject rather than the object of analysis, the only end result is that you will never be able to reach any objective conclusions. You could see throughout all of this, the past week I pretty much focused on the economic system of the game, and today I wanted to wrap it up. You could see how, with a myriad of logical, tangible, evident, and physical logical arguments that you can see, that you could see, there's a reason why the talented developers over at Ascaron had a perfect mental model to project an economic system in which the player is perfectly punished if he doesn't understand the gameplay mechanics, and rewarded if the player finally mastered the gameplay mechanics. Until I didn't master the gameplay mechanics, I was constantly punished because of the economic system of the game. Because I couldn't get... I had to use that gold, because I had to use that gold to survive instead of exploring the gameplay mechanics that I wanted to get into today. Precisely. But to wrap it up,
Now you know that before there can be order, there must first be chaos.
all of this creates a perfect sense of progression. The psychological impact of the sense of progression that you will have if you play Sacred 2 will be much more efficient.
Do not be distracted by others. Only you know the correct path.
The perfect impact of the psychological sense of progression Sacred 2 will have on all players. It's absolutely perfect. It has a higher degree of efficiency. The psychological impact of the sense of progression of Sacred 2 on the player has a higher degree of efficiency when compared to Dark Souls, when compared to World of Warcraft, and of course, if we are talking about the same genre, when compared to World of Warcraft, but also if we compare it to the influence of the isometric action RPG genre that the game has, that's why we did the genre classification, it's much more efficient than Diablo 3. Because of that two-pronged, two-dimensional relationship between the economic system of the game and the gameplay mechanics. It took me a whole week
For centuries,
to get to this conclusion,
has been the central hub of the great
but
machine. Alas, this place is no longer safe. The big war is getting closer.
it was well worth it.
Find a new and better location for the hub. The decision to move away from these halls did not come easily. Because protecting the machine is our highest goal. We, the guardians of the temple, do not have a choice. The hub will be moved to a remote place known as the Wastelands.
The Wastelands?
And
Where's
hopefully
that?
it will be safe there. Once there, it will be magically cloaked and will remain so until the war is over. The key to remove the magic shield will be given to the Dryads, where it will be safe enough for the time being. The last remaining Guardians are ready for departure. Our work here is done. This is our last message. We are leaving now.
Would have been too good to be true anyway.
Now we can see why the Guardian Temple class can only do the evil quest, I believe. Was it something like that? It was something like that because she related to the... I wonder if the good side quest also leads us over here. Hey, what's this? Hey! The projection of an Inquisitor! So, to end the big war against the energy and the demons and everything, we have to go consult with the Dryads about this artifact. We'll see.
How in the name of Kerr did you manage to contact me? Ah, well, it's irrelevant. Did you find the machine?
I think this is the Grand Inquisitor, we are reporting, basically. No, it's not here.
I see. They moved the machine. Very clever of those temple guardians. Well then, this pretty much determines our next step. Go to the Dryads and acquire the key. And don't waste any time. One of my spies is on the island already. Meet him for further instructions.
Alright. Dryad Island. What the... I got teleported? No, please, no. Don't get me teleported, please. By the way, we need to do a backup of the character, huh? I cannot imagine losing my progress up until now. I think I would just... That would be disastrous. That would be a disaster. Dryad Island, I think they mean what I've been calling Great Britain. What I've been calling the UK. I mean, it's modeled after the UK, if you think about it. It must be this one. It must be this one. Alright, I see. So, I have already collected the fur. Anyways, we have a resurrection monolith there. Let's go over there and see if I want to have all of this region explored. And then we'll move to Dryad Island, I guess. I think Dryad Island is pretty much part of the jungle region, technically. I think it's part of the jungle region, technically. If you think about it. I think it's part of the jungle region, technically. There we go. Now it's working. Good. Sorry. I get... It's quite terrible. You don't know the feeling of not being able to watch your own stream when you're streaming because you pretty much don't know if it's working or not. But I could see that the connection was working perfectly. It was Twitch or some shit like that. Well, with that I want to wrap up the economic system of the game. I wanted to finish precisely with the psychological impact, of the sense of progression on the player and why it's so perfectly efficient. Why it's so perfectly efficient Sacred 2 at creating that psychological impact. Moving on to the impact on the gameplay mechanics, precisely, we discovered not so long ago that Sacred 2 uses a two-pronged, as well, elemental system, in which basic attacks are handled differently when... Hey, I'm beginning to think that there we go, there's the objective. Anyways, I wanted to explore that section. I think this region, call me crazy, but I think this region is not open world. It's kind of like straight paths. I mean, it does make sense at the end of the day, because... look at these people. Kind of like, I don't think I can access the jungle itself. I'll try to explore it, we'll go through here. We'll explore the jungle, and today we'll cover all of this and the Dryads, because... and the Dryad Island, because, these are the first that I need to turn in. Ah, very reliable. Here's your payment for your pelts. Look at
Glory and power.
Ha, I knew it, see. See, how are we supposed to achieve 100% completion without doing the nested quests? Kill 5 guardians at the forest and return to me. Now you're back. I promise another task for you. The guardians of the forest. That's what you get. All right. With this nested quest, as you can see, it will naturally allow us to explore the region in a pretty organic and natural way, pretty much. So I presume that. But here, look at this. This is probably explorable. We'll explore all of these. Now the question remains: how do you enter this region? Because I think it's isolated. Because we go to the end of the desert, and that was pretty much it. It must be part of the expansion, because I mean, the only way to access it is through there. Well, we don't know. We still yet don't know. Isn't so great that the universe still holds mysteries to us, to the human race, people? Imagine if we knew everything. It would be a boring place to live in, wouldn't it? Imagine if we knew what creates the universe outside of our planet. A bit of a small detail that I forgot to comment on the other day that I was talking about this topic. Did you know that the Earth is precisely at the perfect spot in our spiral galaxy? I read this some years ago. It's at the perfect spot in our spiral galaxy. So we are right in the middle, in the third arm of, I think it was Perseus, which is basically a perfect middle ground between the big, huge dark hole at the center of the Milky Way, of our spiral galaxy, and the outer rim, and the outer arms of the spiral shape. And you know that that's the only way you can survive. Actually, it's quite interesting, because if you are in if your planet is in the external arm of the spiral galaxy, it will receive a lot of debris. You'll receive a lot of meteorites from outer space, from the outer cluster of your galaxy. But if it's way too close to the dark hole, at the center of the Milky Way, of your galaxy, it can get swallowed. So we're at the perfect spot, way too curious and way too precise to be true. We're at the perfect middle spot, in which we have a perfect view of the rest of the universe. In fact, we wouldn't be able, regardless of how advanced our technology might be, we wouldn't be able to observe the universe without this without being at this specific location. I mean, if you get in the external arm of the spiral galaxy, you can see it even better. But you probably wouldn't survive for a lot of time, because, as I've said, you would be decimated by asteroids. Like, straight up. Because you don't have there's a magnetic field, something like that. It's kind of like a local cluster of stardust and magnetic fields protecting the Milky Way. So you need to be right in the middle, and we're right in the middle. The Earth is right in the middle. So, absolutely astounding, because it's like a 1 in a million probability that you are at the perfect spot to view outside of your galaxy, but not get killed by the debris. So it's an interesting topic. It's an interesting topic. The precision is absolutely incredible. The precision of our location. Pretty much. I wanted to comment that. Going back to this world and the gameplay mechanics, I discovered not so long ago that I think we are exploring, uncharted territory. Yeah. Ah, look at that. I knew it. Civilization. In the middle of the jungle, just like our planet, in the middle of the universe, we've found civilization. Yes, I see a settlement there. Come on. Shit. And here I was perfectly exploring the place. Damn it. This game. This game and its disastrous, this tragic memory leak. It will feel so weird once we get to a different game, It'll feel so weird, people. It'll get so weird once we stream a game without the memory leak. It will feel so weird streaming a game without the crash after this. I've already assumed them as my friends. Yeah, because I restarted the stream and I didn't alt tab because I showed the PS Vita thing. I forgot to flash the memory. I forgot to unload the memory, people. I forgot to unload the memory. But well, I found civilization right before the crash. Oh well. But well, it lasted for an hour and a half, plus the whole hour that I spent with my intro, so that would be 2 hours and 30 minutes. Pretty good, I guess. But well, as I was mentioning, I discovered that the game dissociates the basic attacks from from your spells, pretty much. I was thinking, right? So that's absolutely stupid. But no, that adds an extra layer of abstract complexity to the gameplay mechanics, as I mentioned some streams ago. It perfectly ensures, because think about Diablo, think about Dark Souls, think about Diablo, think about World of Warcraft, think about the classic Blizzard system. As I always say, I always use the classic Blizzard system because it's the one that most of us have been in contact with. They are the most popular games. Otherwise, I would use Star Wars: The Republic. But in those games, you only deal one type of damage. One type of damage. And you only change, only the color of the floating damage numbers change. They are white if they are physical, and they are yellow if they are magic damage. But, people... Alright, it sent us back here, but I think it must have... Let's see if it recorded our props. Fortunately, I saved right away. But pretty much, there isn't a whole elemental system, a whole underlying elemental system behind those. This time I'll remember to flash the memory. Let me do this. Let me alt tab. If you alt tab, that pretty much has helped me with the crashes, because that, don't ask me why nor how, but it flashes the memory pipeline of the game and ensures that you at least unload the memory something along those lines, and that ensures that somehow the game it takes more time until it crashes, pretty much. So, going back to what I was mentioning before I got interrupted by these disgusting crashes. As you can see there, people, now that we go to the end game gameplay mechanics of the game, I have perfectly mastered, and we've already explained this, so I won't go over that again. I've explained it. I've explained that... Hang on a second. We had to turn in the quest. I know, it's over there. It recorded me turning in the quest, but not grabbing the next one. There we go. Kitties, get out of here. We grab the quest again, and let's depart. Let me save, so we don't do that again. And this is a hard... Alright. We cannot access this through here. I think it's an isolated region, so we'll have to take the other path. As we get over there, people... Stupid...
Victory.
Stupid panthers. Let me get rid of them. Get out of here. Get out. There we go. Let me get rid of them. Thank you. Let me get out of here. As you can see, people, my basic attacks deal physical, magic, and fire damage, right? We already know that. We've already covered the abstract complexity of the gameplay mechanics of the game, and how it's more, how it's superior to Diablo 3 and the classic Blizzard system, because there we only have one type of damage, and why it's superior to Borderlands and Hellgate London, because it has different types of damage, but they are also the elemental system is also used in a defensive way, not only offensive, like in most games with an elemental damage system in place, right? Remember that thanks to the relic system of the game, we can also use the elemental system in a defensive way, besides the offensive way that we would normally stumble upon when playing Borderlands or Hellgate London. I know that Hellgate London has defenses, but they're not as prominent as these ones in the overall gameplay of the game. They are not as embedded. The degree of integration, there we go, the degree of integration of the defensive elemental system is not as much in Hellgate London and Borderlands as it is in Secret 2. But well, we've already covered that. And you know there that as I change my abilities there, they have a dissociation between the elemental damage type and of my basic attacks and the elemental damage type of my abilities, of the so-called combat abilities in this game. Remember, naming conventions are taken from classic Dungeons and Dragons in the case of Sacred 2, so they are mostly different. They are different most of the time.
Reached my destination.
So here we are.
What's going to happen now?
Let's see. What do I have to kill? All of these guys. They were some specific guardians, right? That guy, Garena Assassin, Keeper of the Forest Dryad. They don't look like guardians. So, as you can see, I change as I fight. I'll leave it open there. So you can see how they change as I change my abilities. You can see how they change constantly. So, that dissociation, that perfect dissociation, there we got one out of the ones that we need to grab. That dissociation, people, that perfect dissociation, exponentially increases the abstract complexity of the gameplay mechanics, right? But today I wanted to talk about this topic that we explored some streams ago, and I wanted to relate it to the economic system that we've been exploring during the desert region of the series, because there's a direct relationship. There's a direct relationship between the insane variety of stats, because at the end of the day elemental damage types are stats, the insane variety of stats and the economic system of the game. That's why they were dealing so much damage. I didn't change my defense to my elemental defenses to poison defense. See, that's a perfect example of how Sacred 2 masterfully ensures that the player will use the elemental system of the game not only in an offensive way but also in a defensive way, which is the key element that makes it superior to Borderlands, for example. And I love Borderlands, you know it. But the complexity here is much higher. You not only have to worry about looting a weapon with the correct elemental damage type to use against a mob, against an enemy, but you also have to worry about your own elemental defense. In Borderlands there's no elemental defense, pretty much. There's only a shield, and you can only increase your shield and your health bar. And then you reduce your damage by percentages, pretty similar to the system used in Diablo 3. In that sense, you can see that there has been a dumbing down, there has been a simplification of the elemental damage systems in modern games, which is actually sad, because, as I've said, Sacred 2 implements the system not only in an offensive way, but also a defensive way, thanks to the relic system. But well, today I wanted to combine the two topics that we've been analyzing in the previous weeks and months, precisely. Yeah, weeks. I think I covered the elemental system at the beginning of July. How does the complexity of the elemental damage system in Sacred 2, the fact that we can deal and protect against 4 types of damage, and the rest of the incredible amount of stats, how is it influenced by the topic that we're analyzing? By the economic system of the game. By the reward and punishment element of the economic system of the game. It has a relationship. It has a clear relationship that is the integral part of the system that I've been commenting. Negative proportion. You don't know about negative proportion in terms of the income and the gold that you loot from enemies, right? You don't know the gameplay mechanics yet. Imagine myself, I sucked at the beginning of the series, I was a noob, I didn't understand the abstract complexity of the gameplay mechanics. I didn't understand it. I got a negative proportion in terms of the economic relationship. I lost more money than what I got at the beginning of the series because I didn't understand the gameplay mechanics. Negative proportion of the income. And what happens after that? You are punished, of course, there were punishment system and the psychological effects that we talked about. But what about the gameplay consequences influenced by that economic relationship? And now you will see why I have been talking about a higher degree of efficiency in terms of how it psychologically impacts the player as well. It's not only the sense of progression. The economic system of the game is so perfectly integrated that it affects the direct understanding of the gameplay mechanics of the game, people. You must be thinking, how? How, Eraser? How exactly does that work? If we pay close attention, close attention, guys, you will notice that when you have to spend most of your gold on surviving because you don't understand the game, because the player at the beginning of the game does not understand the gameplay mechanics of the game because of the steep learning curve, you spend most of your gold on potions, you create that negative proportion. That negative proportion causes you to only spend your money on potions to survive because you don't understand the gameplay mechanics. Because I got killed 463 times. And I am recreating in my mind the original process of the early game gameplay mechanics of the game and comparing them to the end game gameplay mechanics. You will spend all of your money on potions, right? Tell me, how will you understand the gameplay mechanics if you cannot mod your gear? Because if you cannot mod your gear, you cannot modify the type of elemental damage that you deal, and if you cannot modify the elemental damage that you deal, the direct consequence, and this is the magnificence of this system that the developers over at Ascaron created. Now I realize it. It's impossible for the player to understand the gameplay, the in-depth gameplay mechanics of the game if first they don't master the naming conventions, the basic abstract model of the gameplay mechanics, because the economic system acts as a barrier, a perfectly placed barrier that will ensure that the player will learn the gameplay mechanics. Why? Because you won't be able to mod your gear. See how many, those two things down there that you see, for those of you who may be joining us right now watching this as a YouTube VOD, there you can see my 2 slots, there you can see my 3 slots, there you can see, those are the ones, for example, there, here you can see this Crimson Mist Fury. Until I didn't loot this, I didn't know how to influence the elemental damage system of my combat abilities. See what happens when I do this. When I do that, the elemental damage of my dislodged spirit, it's ice. When I do this, it goes back to poison. And in the case of my staves are the ones creating this perfect 33, 33, and 33 elemental damage proportion here. And here, in the case of my elemental resistances, that's handled by the relic system. But you won't be able to understand all of these, and this is what the conclusion that I wanted to highlight today, because it's something that nowadays we take for granted. Modern streamers and reviewers take all of these mental models and abstract complexity for granted nowadays, and I think it's sad. It's sad because you are not, because they are not properly rewarding the developers for the abstract complexity of the mechanics that they designed. The player will never be able to understand the gameplay mechanics of the game without that positive proportion of the economic system. It's absolutely incredible, and it's something that I haven't seen, I think, in any game, certainly not implemented with this degree of precision. Certainly not implemented with this degree of precision. If you think about Skyrim for a second. Think about World of Warcraft. Think about the latest modern RPG that you play nowadays.
I only mean to
And compare the abstract complexity that you got from it with the one that I'm describing right now in about Sacred 2. Compare the abstract complexity of the systems. There's no point of comparison. I cannot even draw a direct comparison because of how plain this influence usually is in modern games. Generally, there's no influence at all if you think about it. The economic system is dissociated from the learning curve of the gameplay mechanics. They are dissociated, and this is terrible, because we got a game from 2008 who perfectly understood that relationship. I don't know if this was an unconscious or conscious process. I would lean to say that the developers were masters of the genre and they knew what they were doing, and they knew that they were perfectly placing all of the pieces of the puzzle in the correct place. Pretty much I had to deduce that because of the precision. That's precisely I mentioned, and that's exactly why I mentioned the example of the universe. The precision, when you see a game in which you can distinguish such a high degree of precision in how they place the elements, the isolated elements together, how they place all of the elements with such degree of precision. That's pretty much the awe, the magnificence of metaphysical reality itself. The precision with which they design the system in which you can see that they deliberately knew that they were doing. That precision is objectively a magnificent element that you can never reach from the perspective of a relativist analysis. Because in a relativist analysis you put the emphasis of the analysis on the subject rather than the object. You like the game if you like Diablo. Imagine when I always use the poor same example. Or Titan Quest. That's not an objective analysis, people. That's a subjective analysis. I'm putting the emphasis on the subject. You like the same because you like this other one. And I'm ignoring metaphysical reality. I'm ignoring the fact that this game has such degree of precision in those elements that we've been mentioning for 36 days in our 36-day journey. I'm ignoring all of those elements, the precision that with which they perfectly glued together, they perfectly mixed the economic system of the game with the gameplay mechanics. The player will never be able to learn the true abstract complexity of the gameplay mechanics if first he doesn't create a positive proportion of the income that he gets. If you don't get gold, if you're not efficient in combat, you will never be able to have 208 potions, as you can see there, or one potion there. Well, I spent a lot with the last boss. You will never be able to get to 208 potions. You'll have to spend that money on surviving, and when you do that in this game, you are not able to mod your gear, and when you are not able to mod your gear, you can never understand the elemental system of the game. And if you don't understand the elemental system of the game, it's a perfect chain, it's a perfect domino effect. You won't be able to understand the abstract complexity of the gameplay mechanics. And the second that happens, we realize that they perfectly tied, they perfectly united, they perfectly matched together the economic system of the game with the gameplay mechanics. See how at the end of the day they were related. The two elements that we explored throughout these 2 weeks, that I mentioned that they would unite eventually. See how they're perfectly intertwined at the end of the day? Because if you don't understand the gameplay, the naming conventions and the gameplay mechanics, when I didn't know how to increase my accuracy and my evasion chance, I would get killed constantly. Element damage is also on monsters. Panthers were all yellow physical damage. Exactly, Scarlet Dragoon. Exactly. I mentioned that in last week. The relationship between enemy variety and the characteristics, the features of enemy variety, and the gameplay mechanics. I mentioned it. For example, this Panther has physical attack and physical plus magic defense. Right? I mentioned that. I did an exhaustive analysis of it last week. Precisely, not last week. When I was at the jungle, pretty much. I think when I was at the jungle with the lizard men, I covered all of that precisely. But yes, people, I went over this, as you can see, and precisely as Scarlet Dragoon was perfectly pointing out. For example, this enemy, there you can see it has physical damage. Up at the top bar, it's physical damage. If you pay close attention, there are two swords crossed that indicate damage. I'll let them attack me endlessly so you can see it. There you can see that it has physical damage, poison damage. Well, that one died because of reflection damage. Physical damage, magic damage, and poison damage, and it has physical, magic, fire, and poison resistances. There you can see the abstract complexity that I never even realized. I never even realized about it before I go to the endgame gameplay mechanics. That's why the learning curve is so perfect. Because the reward punishment system, precisely Scarlet, I mentioned, I analyzed all of the elemental damage first before getting to the reward punishment system, and that's why I wanted to do that, to kind of like then join them together. The reward punishment system of the game, I don't know what you think about it, but the reward punishment system of the game is perfectly implemented, because it perfectly punishes the player until he learns the gameplay mechanics, and it perfectly rewards the player after learning the gameplay mechanics because of the internal clock system. Because if you stay alive a lot of time, you'll get a lot of gold, as I perfectly verified. As we could all see, I was getting loot. I'm getting loots of 50,000 gold from normal mobs, for example. And at the beginning of the game, that was impossible. Why? Because the economic relationship with the gameplay mechanics of Sacred 2 is perfectly designed. And nowadays in modern games, it's sad that we have dissociated economic systems from the gameplay mechanics. Who cares if you get killed in Skyrim? Who cares if you get killed in Diablo 3? Who cares? Because there's no internal clock system. I mean, this game has made me more grumpy than... Playing this game has made me more grumpy than before, because it has so many amazing elements. That I don't see nowadays. It's absolutely sad. That is sad, because we are lowering the abstract complexity of the mental model of the gameplay mechanics. We are making games dumber, plain. We are kind of like, this is called plain. Hang on a second. My mouse needs to be fed. It wants food. By the way, at the beginning I thought that having a wireless mouse was going to be shit, and I was going to have a lot of lag. And it's not the case. My lag is not that bad. Naturally, a cable is always 100% efficient. But it's not that bad. At least not this one. It's the Logitech G900. Chaos Spectrum, not 902, 900 the original. It was pretty much the only wireless mouse back in the day. And now I don't want to get rid of it. I love it. I mean, I don't know your preferences, people, but in my experience, Logitech is better than Razer for mouses. Corsair would be a contender, but I think Logitech has the best. The best thing that I did in all of my history of building PCs definitely was to mod the cushions of my headset. 100%. That leather, that ecological leather that they use with stock headsets, it gets peeled off almost immediately. Mine got peeled off after 3 months. That's terrible quality assurance. They do it on purpose. It's not quality assurance. They do it on purpose. It's kind of like programmed obsolescence, if you think about it. And I don't know if you can see them. They are like, I replaced the ecological leather with plush. These ones are plush. You can also go for velour, but velour, I think it's hotter. I think it's hotter in comparison to plush. And so far, so good. Looks like this time I've been using these ones for a while, and they don't peel off at all. It's a miracle. No, it's actually they're properly designed. No, yeah. It was the best mod that I did ever. Because otherwise, I hated it when they would peel off. And it's a plague because all of them do it. All of them do it. Even these ones that are Sennheiser, which they're good. They are German/Danish. They are German. The formula is German, but they are produced over at Denmark. Sennheiser, highly recommended. The sound is unmatched. I had some HyperX Cloud Revolver ones previously, and there's no point of comparison. And even these, which are Sennheiser, which are pretty good, they peeled off. So it's a standard practice that regardless of how good your headsets are, unless you want to go for those crazy audiophile open back ones that are extremely expensive for normal use and also don't have microphones. Except for those crazy cases, I highly recommend that you buy any Sennheiser, the cheapest Sennheiser possible, and mod the velour, because there isn't much of a difference. There are a lot of audiophile videos over at YouTube saying that there isn't much of a difference. For normal people, for us, there won't be a lot of difference. But the fact that it peels off, that is a difference. That is a tremendous difference, because it's absolutely uncomfortable when they peel off and you basically cannot, and you have the sponge exposed. In this case, I said no. Let's remove all of that. Let's go for the mod. Let's mod them right away, and that's it. I'm sick. I was sick of having. I had kind of like 3 headsets, all of them peeling off. It was absolutely unbearable. It got to a point when it got unbearable. It was unbearable. After some few months, I think it was 2-3 months, no more than that. It was immediate. They all peel off. Sooner, later, but that they would all peel off constantly. And it was unbearable. I said, that's it. Clearly it's not a problem of the brand at all. It's not a problem of the brand at all. It's a problem of a universal practice. It's a universal practice. They will always peel off. And I highly suggest you do that, people. Highly suggest it. The best suggestion you'll have in your life, regarding PCs at least. The best suggestion: go for plush, go for velour. No matter, anything is better than ecological leather. Anything is better. And regarding the other thing that I was mentioning, there won't be a lot of difference. There won't be. there won't be a lot of difference, and it will be a huge difference. Another thing. Over at any online store, they will tell you that you have to get the ones that are specifically for your model. That's also a big lie. It's a big lie. These ones that I'm using are for an open back Sennheiser headset, which have nothing to do with my closed back model. It's a totally different model, and as you can see, they work perfectly. It was a bit tricky, granted. It was a bit tricky to perfectly place them. I had to use 4 spoons because they are difficult to put them in place. I don't know if you've ever changed the ear pads of your headset, but it's difficult. But I could do it with 4 spoons, and I am delighted with the result. Delighted. Absolutely delighted with the result. Nothing to do, they are much more soft. They are not as hot as the ecological leather than the stock leather, so just grab a pair of ear pads that are of the same brand as yours, and chances are, measure the distance, measure the dimensions, the vertical and horizontal dimensions, and if they are close, you can do it, and it's an absolute upgrade. It's an absolute upgrade. Previously, I couldn't game for more than 3 hours before doing a rest, which also isn't recommended, but now it feels absolutely natural and perfect. So, highly recommended that you mod your ear pads, because it's an amazing upgrade. Going back to the analysis that precisely Scarlet Dragoon was mentioning, the elemental damage types, see how at the end of the day they are perfectly intertwined. See how they are perfectly intertwined. The influence of the economic system of the game with the gameplay mechanics. In the previous weeks, as I've said, we've been analyzing them, but in isolation. I analyzed the economic system of the game and the reward punishment system influence, the 2-dimensional influence on the gameplay mechanics. And even before that, in the jungle region, I talked about the elemental system that precisely you were mentioning, Scarlet Dragoon. Now, I wanted to cover how they perfectly, we covered how they perfectly combine. Once again, people, I know it's an extremely abstract relationship, but if we pay close attention, the economic system of this game is perfectly integrated with the gameplay mechanics. I don't think I can enter through there. Then how do I access those quests? There has to be another entrance. Oh well. We've explored... we are already done here. Let me turn in the quest and see if we can find the entrance from other angle. The economic system is perfectly integrated within the gameplay mechanics. Not only all of the things that we've mentioned, but also the fact, the perfect chain of knowledge that the game has. How it's perfectly embedded within the learning curve. If you get a negative proportion in the economic system of the game, if you loot less gold than what you need to purchase potions, you get that negative proportion. The second you need for the Great Inquisition, and I think we are done here. Good. If you get that, the second you get that negative proportion, the second you lose more money than what you need to constantly buy potions, that negative proportion of the income, you have to spend the few gold pieces that you'll have, because you won't be able to save money, on buying potions to just survive, because you don't understand the gameplay mechanics of the game. The second that happens, you cannot mod your gear, and the second that also happens, you won't understand the elemental system of the game. I didn't understand it until I could get through that economic barrier of the game that the game imposed on me. And it's like a domino effect. And you won't understand the game, the extra complexity of the gameplay mechanics, and the direct consequence of that is that the game has a perfect reward punishment system, and as a consequence of that, a perfect sense of progression psychologically on the player. It has a perfect influence. Negative proportion of the economic system. You don't learn the gameplay mechanics. You don't learn the gameplay mechanics. You won't be able to... You won't be rewarded by the game. It's a direct psychological effect. And it's continuous. This element that I mentioned at the beginning. Let's take the other road. Let's explore the other road. I want to cover the jungle today, plus the Seraphim, the Dryad Island. See that it's perfectly embedded. It's perfectly embedded. It's perfectly integrated with the gameplay mechanics of the game. It's absolutely impressive and sad at the same time that we don't get this abstract complexity in a lot of modern games. Right? Tell me, what's the last game, people, that you remember, if you're watching this as a YouTube VOD, tell me, what's the last game in which you could notice a relationship between the economic system and the gameplay mechanics of the game? It'll probably be Dark Souls. But this two-pronged direct relationship, you won't be able to find it in, for example, in Diablo 3 and in a lot of modern RPG games. You just lose the cost of opportunity of killing the boss and the loot. And that's it. That's pretty much it. They are dissociated, the economic system with the gameplay mechanics. The game does not punish you for not learning the abstract complexity of the gameplay mechanics at all. It just allows you to play the game with a dissociated system. You're playing the game with a dissociated system. Sacred 2 masterfully integrates those elements. And we should be thankful for that. And we shouldn't take that element for granted. Because at the end of the day, what modern games do is creating a plain system. They are dumbing down. They are creating a plain system, and when you do that, and this is something that I think I mentioned on Tuesday of last week, when you do that, you ruin replayability. And when you ruin replayability, because the abstract complexity is lower, you ruin replayability. And when you ruin replayability, you're also affecting the psychological impact on the player. The sense of progression on the player. Erase or what? How could it be? Easy, because if you destroy replayability, you are lowering the amount of time that the player will spend playing the game. Because the abstract complexity is lower. Right? So the game will be simpler, and if the game is simpler, the player will spend less time getting through the learning curve. The player gets less time getting through the learning curve. Spends less time, getting through the learning curve. And you destroy replayability. When you destroy replayability, the player spends less time playing the game. And notice this. Which are the games that you remember the most, people? At this point, we're getting into the psychological effects of all of this. Which are the games that you remember the most in your life? The ones that you remember the most. The ones that you think about gaming and you say, it's a subconscious process, but we're trying to kind of like reverse engineer it. the psychological effect of it. Which are the games that you remember like this when you think about gaming, about video games? There's a high chance, chances are, that the ones that you remember the most will be the ones that you spent the most time playing. The longest ones. Why? Because replayability was enhanced by the abstract complexity of the gameplay mechanics. See the perfect relationship? You spend a lot of time playing the games and you remember them perfectly. Why? Because the human brain works like that. The human brain works like that, and few developers understand it. Few game developers understand it. The human brain works like that, and the developers over at Ascaron knew precisely what they were doing.
Can you feel death now?
The more you spend doing something, the human brain works like that, the more you will remember how to do it. It's the most efficient way of remembering, through repetition. There's a reason why in software development and all areas, repetition is the most efficient way of memorization. And the human brain works like this, subconsciously. So, if a modern game, the most successful modern games are so successful because of the abstract complexity of the gameplay mechanics, enhance replayability, and the direct consequence of enhancing replayability is that the player will spend more time playing the game. What we usually call that the game is more addictive, but we don't get into the psychological reasons why it is more addictive or not.
I am totally overloaded.
You spend more time playing, and when that happens, the brain is much more attached to that element, to that game that you spent thousands of hours on, trying to get the perfect loot, trying to create your perfect build, exploring a massive world, like in Sacred 2, than those that you spent, I don't know, only one day beating them and there's no replay value at all. It's a subconscious process, as I've said, but incredibly important if you think about it, people. Because when you think about games, chances are that the ones that you remember the most are games like Sacred 2, are games like Dark Souls. Why? Because the economic system is perfectly associated with the gameplay mechanics of the game, a perfect reward/punishment system is in place. A perfect reward and punishment system is in place in those games, and the direct consequence of that is that that replayability will be enhanced. The player will spend more time playing the game, and the psychological sense of progression at the end of the day has been exponentially enhanced. In a lot of years, we'll probably still remember Sacred 2, World of Warcraft, Diablo, lengthy games, but we usually don't remember shorter games, except when there's another gameplay element that influences that memory, that impacted us so much psychologically, like for example the horror scene, just like movies, or the action. For example, Vanquish is a perfect example of this. Vanquish is a perfect example, a very short game developed by the creator of Resident Evil, that the gameplay is so incredibly fast when compared to Gears of War that I still remember it. Just a random example. But at the end of the day, see how important that influence is. See how important that influence is. How many psychological effects I could deduce, and not because I'm a genius or some shit like that, not because of that, because it's evident in metaphysical reality, not because of something abnormal, because it's a logical, concatenated effect that we can deduce from the gameplay mechanics. Right? The problem is that all of this is a subconscious process, and subconscious processes are generally invisible to most reviewers when they're playing the games. That's the thing. You cannot review what you cannot see.
Does that hurt? Heretic?
And for that, you need to reverse engineer, let's say. You need to get to the logical reasons why you say that a game is addictive. You need to reverse engineer the subjective mental perception, your subjective mental perception, until you reach what I always say, people, metaphysical reality. And reaching metaphysical reality, it's impossible the second, as I always say, the second we define metaphysical reality as the sum of our mental perceptions. As I always say. That's called the fallacy of relativism that I always mention. It's impossible. It's impossible to reach the conclusion that Sacred 2 is addictive because of the psychological impact on the player. By the way, I made a mistake a lot of streams ago. I said black lives matter and it was lives. I made a mistake there. My bad. I shouldn't do those mistakes. I shouldn't make those mistakes. My bad. I shouldn't make those mistakes. Even if I'm talking without... You know that most YouTube videos are scripted now, right? And I hate that. I hate scripted YouTube bots and scripted analysis because they take out the natural ability to analyze what you are seeing. And I think that's terrible because you are taking out the capability of improving. I think it's terrible. That's why I don't like scripting analysis over at YouTube as well, and I just upload the bots because it doesn't feel natural. It doesn't feel natural. It feels like the reviewer is not pushing through its limits, right? Because simply he has a script. This is the typical way the game reviews are done. The YouTuber, the reviewer, has a paper kind of like right behind the camera. And they read. And you notice that. And that's absolutely sad, because the reviewer is not pushing through the limitations of his own cognitive perception. Precisely, going back to what I said.
I will make you bleed.
When we define metaphysical reality as the sum of our mental perceptions, that's the very fallacy of relativism. Metaphysical reality is equal to the sum of our mental perceptions. As I always say, people, we all agree that this is a gaming mouse, and we decide to call it a gaming mouse, right? But if I asked you, why do you call it a gaming mouse? Why do we call it a gaming mouse? Why? Because we all agreed to call it a gaming mouse. It's a convention. It's a human convention. That is called the fallacy of relativism. Why? Because it's a closed system. It's a closed system in which the only way it works is by ignoring metaphysical reality. There isn't a dissociation between metaphysical reality and my mental perception. I say that this is a gaming mouse because we will agree to call it like that. The second we do that, we are ignoring metaphysical reality. This is a gaming mouse and not a chair, for example. We can call this a gaming mouse and not a chair because it's a specific combination of molecules and particles that doesn't correspond with a chair. It's the specific combination of a gaming mouse. And out of two subjective mental perceptions, there will always be one, out of two subjective mental perceptions, there will always be one that is closer in its description to metaphysical reality. Saying that this is a gaming mouse is more precise, more accurate than saying it's a chair. It's not a matter of our mental perceptions that we all agree to call it a mouse. Because the specific combination of atoms and particles and molecules is that of a gaming mouse, not of a chair. Why? Because throughout the millions of years of history of humanity, throughout millions of years, the human race has been in contact with a creature, with an animal, that precisely has the very same shape, and molecule combination as this gaming mouse. They're similar in their shape. There's a logical, objective reason why it is metaphysically more accurate to call this a gaming mouse instead of a chair. We can make it more subtle. Imagine that instead of chair versus gaming mouse, between those definitions, I said electronic device. I call this an electronic device. And because of the rule of specificity, you will tell me, subconsciously, that it's more precise to call it a gaming mouse instead of an electronic device. But it's much deeper than that. It's more objectively closer to metaphysical reality to call this a gaming mouse and not an electronic device. Why? Because I'm referring to the shape of it, to a specific combination of molecules and particles that are subconsciously related in terms of the history of the human race with a creature that has the very same shape. So we are talking about a genetic, inherited, subconscious process of denomination that simply we don't have if we call this a chair. See the difference? That it's not a matter of we all agree to call it a chair, and it's a chair because of it. See the difference? I gave you a logical, metaphysical explanation why it is more accurate in its description, the definition of gaming mouse instead of electronic device, instead of chair. Because we have several electronic devices, but the gaming mouse is more specific. Out of two opinions, the doxas, as we used to call them in ancient Greece, it's sad that in ancient Greece they had a better dissociation between metaphysical reality and our mental perception than nowadays, when compared to nowadays. Granted, they had kind of like a magical thought. They called it the plane of ideas and the plane of reality, and the plane of ideas, instead of calling it the mind, they called it kind of like a pantheon of gods and all of that crazy stuff that we experienced back then. But nowadays that we know that it isn't the plane of ideas and the plane of reality, and it's actually our mind and metaphysical reality. Yeah, I was right, the objective was over there. See? I was going in the right direction. It's incredible how back in ancient Greece, back in ancient Rome, then everything went to shit when we got into the medieval age. That's why it's called the Dark Age. They could perfectly dissociate metaphysical existence and their own minds, in this case the plane of ideas of the gods. And they could perfectly make this difference. Nowadays, if I asked random people on the street, I am 99% sure, and I don't want to underestimate the population at all. If I asked this, people would probably tell me, if I asked them, why do you call the air that you are breathing air, and not, why do you call it oxygen instead of hydrogen? Why? They would probably tell me, because everyone calls it like that. See the difference? There isn't a logical argument behind the definition. That's the fallacy. There isn't a logical argument. And with games, it's the same. If I just tell you, the game is addictive, so it's good. This is generally what you will find in 99% of reviews and professional gaming press and streams. If imagine a viewer asks the stream, but why is it good? Well, because I like it, will be the most common answer. In my case, I like it. See how it changes the focus of analysis from the object to the subject. They are not giving you a logical reason as to why it is objectively good or bad. it's subjective because I like it. And imagine if a crazy individual would enter, would go to IGN or I don't know, or Metacritic or whichever gaming review site that you can imagine. Imagine if I told, but you say it's addictive. Why is addictive? Why is it addictive?
My destination should be somewhere in this area.
Yeah, in these ruins that I've been exploring so far.
Do not confuse
So our quest
bravery
leads us
with
here.
madness.
Imagine why. If someone asks, why is it addictive? Why? Few, not to say 99% of them, sadly wouldn't be able to tell you that it's addictive because of the psychological impact of the sense of progression on the player. They wouldn't be able to get to the psychological reason, objective reason, why it's so addictive, and that's good. Because they usually, it's a subconscious process which involves putting the emphasis of the analysis on the subject rather than the object. So since the emphasis is on them, they cannot reverse engineer their mental perception to reach metaphysical reality. It's impossible. They are not dissociated. They will tell you, my mental perception, posh word for opinion, my mental perception is like this. So the game is addictive to me. It's addictive.
The Inquisition is said to be heartless.
What is it? Thought you were going to help me?
Prove to you
Well,
otherwise.
looks like we're done. The marker disappeared, and we look at this. We've explored the whole place, and the sub-quest got over there. We need to complete something here, or what? Damn it, this place. Let's get to the secret switch, people. Let's get to the secret switch, see if we can unlock the secret plateau developer dungeon there. Let's see if we can do it. I think we have a direct path. Nope. I think it's over here. So we should cross the bridge, go all the way to over here, over here, over here. Anyways, we have to explore that. Let's get to the east now then. If I'm not mistaken, yeah, more or less over there. Let me call my spider. But yes, I was mentioning, they'll tell you, probably, I like the game because it's addictive. It's good, it's addictive, but why? Why? And it's absolutely sad that back in ancient Greece, we could do this reverse engineering of our mental perception compared to metaphysical reality, what I just showed you about the gaming mouse and the electronic device or the chair. I can perfectly dissociate my perception, my mental perception, from metaphysical reality. Most people, sadly, most game reviewers will tell you, the game is addictive, and that's it, because I like it. Because I like it. Or I like it because it's addictive. But that's pretty much his mental perception, the mental perception of the subject that is analyzing the object. It never leaves their mental perception. When that happens, you can never reach metaphysical, objective reality. You can never reach the conclusion that the game is addictive because of that psychological sense of progression influence that it has on the player, for example, or all of the elemental systems that we've been talking about, or the level design that I was mentioning the other day. You can never reach it because you can never leave your own mental perception. Your metaphysical reality will be equal to the sum of a collective of mental perceptions. The second metaphysical reality is equal to the sum of our mental perceptions. The second that happens, it's impossible to reach any objective conclusions. It's absolutely impossible, because it will reach a point in which you must have seen it thousands of times, people. Think about your Congress, in the case of the US and us, we have Congress here in North America and South America, or Parliament in the case of Europe. In the case of Argentina, it's a weird case because we have European culture but American institutions. but legal European system, so it's a mix. So I can perfectly see both of them. Parliament or Congress. Think about your own Parliament or Congress. It reaches a point
Sacrificial animals.
at
Nice.
which the Congress men have to say,
I will make you
alright, but
bleed.
that's your opinion and this is mine, right? Or in any intellectual debate that you must have seen. This is your opinion and this is mine, and that's it. We both have different opinions. Yes, that's perfect, and I congratulate you all for it. However, you never reached any objective conclusions. Now, reaching objective conclusions is not needed to rule a country, it's not needed to create an efficient system like democracy, which is the most efficient system, or parliamentary monarchy in the case of the UK and some European countries, but it's pretty much a democratic monarchy. It's quite efficient. Relativism is quite efficient at managing a country. It's quite efficient at that because I have my opinion, you have yours, we vote, and the sum of mental perceptions decides majority, and like that we rule the country and we don't kill each other, right? It's extremely efficient at that. But relativism isn't efficient at analyzing isolated objects, like video games, like movies, like books, like reality itself. It's good at organizing a society, but it's not good at, it's terrible in fact, at analyzing reality, because of what I've said. What do you want from me? No, go away. Ah, damn it, this is a delayed quest. God damn it. I don't know how to access that shit there. I think by now we have to explore this last road. Let's do it and let's get to Dryad Island. Let's get to it. Because I think then we can come back. Then we can come back and see if we can deal with the rest of them. I see a delayed quest there. No, that's part of the main quest. No, it's a delayed quest. Relativism is quite efficient at managing a democracy because of the sum of mental perceptions that I've said. But it's terrible at analyzing isolated objects because you can never reach any objective conclusions. Because you can never say that, for example, a mental perception is far away from metaphysical reality. I always say in a joke that when you listen to something that you perceive, that your mental perception tells you that it's a stupid opinion, in reality what it's telling you is that the mental perception of the individual that you are listening to is far away from describing metaphysical reality. That's the thing. It's far away from describing metaphysical reality. That's why it sounds subconsciously stupid. It strays far away from metaphysical reality in its description. If I told you that this is a chair, what you would tell me? It's a stupid mental perception. It's a mental perception that is far away from metaphysical reality. That is the thing. The key of the matter. And in games, it's the same. If I tell you the game is addictive, and that's my ultimate conclusion of it, the game is addictive. Great, what now? Why is it addictive? Because of the psychological impact that I've been mentioning on the player. Because of the sense of progression. Because of how perfectly integrated the economic system is with the gameplay mechanics. See that they're all objective logical reasons. It's not my mental perception. I'm giving you logical reasons as to why my mental perception is close to metaphysical reality. And it's sad that nowadays most game reviewers, as I've said, my stream exceeds analyzing this on a more general level, on kind of like analyzing it in terms of our societies. but you can deduce the insane amount of impacts that this has, the huge amount of influence. Because the second that happens, I can say whatever I want. And due to the fact that my mental perception will have equal metaphysical value when compared to other person's mental perception, our opinions will have the same value. You must have heard this endlessly. The second that happens, I can say whatever I want. If there's no difference in metaphysical inherent and intrinsic value. In fact, precisely what I started my stream with, talking about the mess that Venezuela is right now, because of that, because of how communism embraces this ideology. It's exactly the direct opposite of social conservatism. It's actually the exact opposite. Why? Because you're destroying the mental perception of individuals. Basically, the second you assign the same metaphysical value to two mental perceptions, it's a fallacy. If I say it's a gaming mouse and not an electronic, and not a chair or an electronic device, I'm being more accurate. The second we don't recognize that description as more accurate, it doesn't matter what you say. You are destroying the intrinsic value of analysis, of objective analysis, because it doesn't matter. The metaphysical value is dissociated from metaphysical reality, so mental perceptions are all the same. Then what's the point of thinking about metaphysical reality if all mental perceptions are the same? It's a deep process, and I wouldn't know any of this if I didn't have a European school of thought, scholasticism in my case. And I wouldn't know any of this. So I think it's a crime. I think it's a crime not teaching at least the whole spectrum, because I read about
And this is only the
cultural Marxism and the like. I read both of them, both sides of the coin, and I deliberately choose, because of the side that out of both of them, the side that gave me the most logical reasons. See the difference between that and saying what was the typical insult? Fucking Nazis. And anyone who doesn't have the mental perception that I have is a fucking Nazi. Everyone is a fucking Nazi. You think as I do, or you're a fucking Nazi. That's exactly the opposite. That's exactly the opposite of freedom of expression. It's exactly the opposite. And it's sad, and it's absolutely sad, that applied to video games, let's not stray far away from it, that in game reviews, it's pretty much the same. You ask the reviewer, or you read the review. It could be a written review. Why is it good? Why is the game addictive? Why is it good? Because I liked it, or because I played it a lot, or something like that. See that there's no logical background. That's why today I wanted to combine both elements: the economic system of the game and the precisely the gameplay, the punishment, and the economic system, the reward punishment element of it, and the gameplay system. It's incredible how Sacred 2 perfectly creates that oppressive, continuous, psychological sense of progression that ensures that the player will be constantly trying to traverse the learning curve, to explore the learning curve of the game. And it's incredible how organically and naturally embedded within the gameplay mechanics it is. So, sorry that once again I got into metaphysics, people, but as you can see, they are absolutely needed for the analysis for properly analyzing a game, because the second you say that the second you put the focus of your analysis on the subject rather than the object, I would probably say that, in my case, see, for example, this is a mental perception. Since my favorite game is Star Wars: The Old Republic, you know it, the MMORPG. The second I say that Star Wars: The Old Republic is the best game of all time, that's a subjective mental perception.
The pain.
I have logical reasons, such as the fact that it has 8 stories. It, for example, blurs the line between MMORPG and single-player content like no other game does. It's actually 8 games in one. It's actually Star Wars: The Old Republic 3. It culminates the story, the great story of Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2. I have thousands of logical reasons. But imagine if I applied my subjective mental perception to all analysis, because I would award Star Wars: The Old Republic a 10, and all games besides that one would never be able to reach 10, would never be able to reach a perfect qualification, and that would be a fallacy if I said that, if I told you that, because Sacred 2, it's a 10 out of 10 game. Because of different reasons, because of different logical reasons. But yeah, as you can see, there's a reason why I include, I have to include, I'm forced to include metaphysics in our analysis of it, because otherwise I cannot reach those objective conclusions. Ah, get me a doctor, quick, that's my bone, that's poking out of my leg, ouch, quick, get me a doctor. There's one near the beach, ow. Alright, that will naturally lead us to the next settlement. Good. Give me a sec. There we go. It's working. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, fully perfect. Good, there we go. As I've said, it's absolutely needed. It's absolutely needed, because otherwise I could never be able to reach those objective conclusions, people. Think about it for a second. As I've said, imagine if I told you it's just good because I like it. Or because, I don't know, because it's addictive. There's no logical reasoning behind it. It's subjective mental perception. I know it's extremely difficult. I remember the first time that I was told about this, of trying to establish a dissociation between metaphysical reality and mental perception. It's extremely hard. It's a barrier almost impossible to break. But think about it like this: if thinkers back in ancient Greece could do it, we can do it too. And I think that applied to game reviews,
There are no challenges left for me.
we've arrived. Yeah, told you I would find civilization eventually. Alright, so there was a city in the middle of this jungle. I need to consult. We are in trouble because I think the switch for the developer dungeon, it involves crossing the river there. I think it's here. There's a switch there, I've read it, people, that unlocks the secret developer dungeon over at the plateau here. But I need to find it. It's a small switch that is extremely difficult to find, but it's there. That'll give us access to the secret developer dungeon. I need to find it. So well, as you can see, today I wanted to perfectly combine the two elements that we've been analyzing in depth. I cannot get into them once again, which are the economic system of the game and its relationship with the gameplay mechanics, and the elemental damage and defense system of the game. They are perfectly integrated because, as I've said, you won't be able to understand the elemental damage system without getting a positive proportion of the economic system of the game. And that will never happen if you don't understand the base gameplay, naming conventions, and abstract gameplay mechanics of the game. it's absolutely incredible, but they managed to create, I want to zoom out and see the bigger picture here. They managed to perfectly create a domino effect, a perfect chain that integrates those two elements. Precisely, the economic system and the gameplay mechanics. Oof, that was a long analysis. How much time? What? It's been 3 hours. It's been 3 hours. Shit. I mean, I get lost in thought so much. Go out. Go out and slay something. I'm the chef of this camp and have no idea what to cook today. Go on. Sorry. So go and get me something. I don't care what. If it moves, slay it. If it doesn't move, collect it. Just follow this compass needle and get me where whatever it points at. You understand?
You should feel honored, for
Let's grab all of the quests because they will gradually send us to the different points of the area. Oh, a wonder heart his leg? Corim, you say? Show me where he's lying. I'll come with you. This is probably a timed quest, so let's better do it now. Oh dear gods. How glad I am for someone to show up.
For Kerr, I will help you.
Well,
In the
nothing.
name of the Inquisition.
Get me 20 pieces of firewood. What brings you here? It's not far from here to the end of the world. Watch out or you'll end up in regions where there are no fires to guide your way. Many sailors have sailed beyond the rim of the world, never to return. You're still young and green, so listen well because I know what I'm talking about. While you're here, you could get me some firewood. I have enough logs, but some branches to get the fire going would be nice. Okay. Let's do first the other one. It's all around this place. Perfect. Let's first go back to the guy that was dying some minutes ago. Because the game has timed quests, in the same vein as the Elder Scrolls 2 Daggerfall. Damn it, those were so terrible. You could miss out on the main quest of the game if you didn't do the missions. There was a concept of time that we don't have nowadays in games, but Sacred 2 does have it in a very subtle way, because some of them quests you can fail them if you don't do them immediately. Let's do this. So yeah, people, that was the analysis that I wanted to do today. As you see from the title description, I also wanted to include the relationship between the usage of potions and the gameplay mechanics. Precisely, I wanted to take it into account, but I think it is included in what we did. Pretty much, the game doesn't allow you to spam potions as additional conclusions. The game doesn't allow you to constantly spam potions. It has a perfect system in which, instead of using the system of, for example, Hellgate London. By the way, I have news for you, people. For you. I know that you, Scarlet Dragoon, and also you, Crowbar, over at Discord. I know that both of you love Hellgate London. There will be a sequel. It was announced in the main Discord, in case you haven't checked, of London 2038. I saw it through there, through Sayona. Always a shout out to Sayona, the community manager of London 2038. He accompanied me when I was reviewing it. I always deeply appreciate it. And over at their Discord, they mentioned that there will be a sequel to Hellgate London, an official sequel to the game. There are still no images, but there will be a sequel. So rejoice, Hellgate London will be revived. And I noticed it. Because of the London 2038 forums over at Discord. I saw it the other day, and I was extremely happy. go away. The doctor has to treat me. Ouch.
Everything goes as planned.
And I was rejoiced by it that there will be an official sequel. It'll be interesting when 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 the London 2030 team is able to mod the sequel. It would be absolutely amazing. So yeah. Highly recommended that you join the London 2038 community. They are absolutely amazing, and precisely there will be a sequel. Absolutely amazing. I saw it the other day when I logged in to welcome Crowbar to the Discord and to announce Warhammer Inquisitor Martyr as a great recommendation that you shouldn't miss. And yes, I was getting into our Discord. I also checked the London 2038 Discord, and there was a sequel announced, and I was absolutely rejoiced by it. And yeah. So I was mentioning that in terms of the economic relationship between the usage of potions and their gameplay mechanics, it's perfectly established because in Hellgate London you are silenced, for example. That's one solution. And in Sacred 2 you are the economic system precisely is the one responsible.
Too easily defeated do not bring glory.
Hey, there's a portal there. I should unlock it first of all. That they here we go. They unlock as you get close to them. Perfect. We have a second foothold on the region. I'm beginning to see a tendency that I wanted to comment right now. But first, let's finish with the usage of potions. And let's finish our quests. Because we have several of them. The economic relationship between the usage of potions and the gameplay mechanics. Hellgate London precisely solves this through the silence mechanic, through silencing the player, so the player does not, so the player is unable to constantly spam potions. So it's the player is silenced, and you cannot use the potion. Is considered as a combat ability, as an ability. In the case of World of Warcraft, they have cooldowns. You cannot constantly spam them. So it's a different. You can solve the issue of the relationship between the usage of potions and the gameplay mechanics through cooldowns, through abilities, through making them part of the ability system of the game and allowing enemies to silence you, so you cannot use them. But Sacred 2 has a third solution, quite interesting, which allows you to constantly use potions. But the economic system is organically, naturally designed in such a way, that the usage of potions is reserved for boss fights. Meaning that, precisely, the negative proportion that I've been constantly mentioning, that is tied to the gameplay system of the game, in such a way that you cannot have a lot of potions because of that negative proportion, because you will lose money, because you won't be able to loot enough money as to create a positive proportion to buy a lot of potions. The solution is embedded within the economic system of the game. You can endlessly spam potions, which under normal circumstances it would be like Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning and a total disaster, because the player would be able to survive and not learn the gameplay mechanics, because you could potentially just buy potions, right? Under normal circumstances, that would be the case, but the economic system of the game is so perfectly integrated with the gameplay mechanics that it also, as a collateral effect, it fixes the usage of potions. It fixes the relationship between the usage of potions and the gameplay mechanics. It's incredible. It's a secondary effect, fixing the usage of potions, It's a secondary effect of the economic system of the game. If you think about it, I know it's extremely abstract, but it's real. Because the fact that you cannot spam endless potions in this game at the beginning of the learning curve is a direct consequence of the fact that the economic system of the game prevents you from having a positive in-game currency income. It's a direct consequence. You die constantly, then the internal clock timer is reset, so you don't get enough gold. You haven't learned the gameplay mechanics. You don't get enough gold. You cannot buy potions. You cannot endlessly spam potions. See how... It's amazing. See how perfectly integrated they are. So finally, someone brave enough to investigate.
Never had, and you should feel honored, for I will help you.
That is weird. He didn't give me a mission to enter that dungeon. Hey, there's another quest over there. We need to explore this area, people, huh? We need to explore it. See how they are perfectly integrated and how many consequences it has. The relationship at the beginning of the series, when we covered it at the beginning of the series, if you remember, people. The relationship between the usage of potions and the gameplay mechanics. The fact that there has to be something in place so the player doesn't continuously spam potions and you destroy the difficulty of the game and make it way too easy. Find the key to the boathouse. What terrible misfortune, this guard at the boathouse is dead. I saw it with my own eyes from a distance, of course. A pack of wild animals attacked him and tore him to shreds. He had the only key to the boathouse. Now we can't get into the boat. We can't get into the boathouse, and neither can you. Perhaps you could fetch the key. I'm too afraid of the animals to do it myself.
Since this matter is of such importance
That's
to
easy.
you,
Alright, I need to search for it. Silly me. Alright, let me save there. Let me Alt Tab so I can perfectly flash the memory. It has helped me, people. Help me, guys. Because look at this, it's been 3 hours since the crash. Well, no, well, a bit less. Yeah, it could be, yeah, an hour and a half here. But well, it's better than before. And it's incredible. It's incredible because the the relationship between the usage of potions and the gameplay mechanics, it's addressed in this game as a secondary effect, of the economic relationship of the relationship, as it's a secondary effect of the relationship between the economic system of the game and the gameplay mechanics. You won't, as I said, you won't, with real life examples, you won't, if you don't understand the gameplay mechanics, you won't be able to have a positive proportion in your loot. You'll lose money. You won't be able to buy the potions. I mean, you will first be forced to buy potions to survive. Then you lose that money buying potions. Then you won't be able to even buy them. It has happened to me several times. As soon as you go up against the bosses, and basically that is also a limit in the relationship between the usage of potions and the gameplay mechanics. Why? It's a secondary consequence, as you can see, of that negative proportion of the economic system of the game with the gameplay mechanics. You won't be able to buy the potions. It'll get to a point in which you won't be able to buy the potions if your combat performance is terrible. And basically, not only you won't learn the gameplay mechanics, because you won't be able to mod your gear because you'll have to spend that money on buying potions, but it will reach a point in which you'll go up against the boss, you'll lose most of those accumulated potions. It has happened to me, as you could see, and the direct consequence is that you won't have potions at the end of the day. It happened to me when we went up against the Ghost Dragon World Boss. If you remember, people, that was a dramatic moment when I got constantly killed by the ghost dragon at the beginning of the series. And I lost all of my potions, and it completely destroyed my overall economy. I couldn't recover from that. You know why? Because of the internal clock system, because of another element of the economic system of the game, the internal clock system that ensures that the reward punishment system will be there to manage the player's performance, the player's gameplay performance, how effective the player is in combat. And it's absolutely amazing. See how many elements I have glued together, I have combined in a unified analysis of the game. In a unified analysis of the game. And how they influence each other. That's the magnificence of this game. The elements, the gameplay elements, aren't isolated at all. They are perfectly integrated within each other. And that's something that we don't appreciate nowadays, sadly. It's absolutely sad. It's absolutely sad. But it's that way. Nowadays, as I've said, because of the metaphysical portion that I always mention of the analysis, we never reach those objective conclusions, and we never reach this integration, this conclusion of how well integrated the elements of the game are. For example, the other day I mentioned that the level design of this game is unique because it has the precision, the high degree of detail of a much smaller game, combined with the scope of a massive open world MMORPG. And that's something unusual. Generally, open world games that are massive, think about World of Warcraft, Skyrim, the most popular ones. Immortals Phoenix Rising was pretty good, for example. Think about all of them and wonder if the degree of precision of the level design of the quest system is as precise as in this game. Generally, on average, it is not. It is not. Generally, in World of Warcraft, for example, this degree of precision, I haven't found it. So, at this point, I think it's an important, it's a highly beneficial aspect that we don't take into account, and we should. That the degree of precision of the details that you get in this game, it's absolutely higher than the average MMORPG or open world modern RPG, precisely. So we should appreciate that because it involves the complexity of creating a massive game, like in all of those massive MMORPGs that I mentioned, with the extra challenge of achieving this degree of details, in terms of the quest system of the game. So, relationship between the usage of potions and the gameplay mechanics, people, as a conclusion that I wanted to add as an extra element of the economic system of the game that we treated at the beginning of the series, but not with the end game perspective of it. It's a secondary consequence of the relationship of between the economic system of the game with the gameplay mechanics. As I've said, I won't repeat it. At the end of the day, you won't have potions. You won't have enough potions if you don't understand the gameplay mechanics. It happened to me at the beginning. Check out the first bots in case you missed them of the series, in which we died a lot. And precisely, as you can see, all elements are perfectly integrated. They are perfectly integrated, and that's something that we should always value a lot. And yes, the relationship between the usage of potions is a direct consequence of this. It's a secondary consequence of that perfect integration. I think we'll leave. I also wanted to cover the skill tree to have an end game vision of the skill tree today, but I think my analysis was way too extensive. Today and on Tuesday and Thursday of last week about these topics. So I think we'll leave it for next time. Besides, today took a lot of time with the intro, and I wanted to showcase the PS Vita, the ultimate showcase that we'll do. We can also play games. Oh, we're in trouble. I cannot select that one. Interesting. They're overlapping. Let's see the other one. Oh, hello. It's nice to meet you here. Have you seen Griffinborg yet? It's a wonderful town, I'm telling you. Yes, we've been there. We're in trouble. They're overlapping. I think this is a reference to Resident Evil. Stranger. To the vendor from Resident Evil 4, I believe. I think this is the end of the map, pretty much. Damn it, they are overlapping. I cannot select the quest. Shit. Interesting. Interesting turn of events. What to do now? That lizard man. This one is definitely back, bro. Shit, well. A mystery for next time. A mystery for next time, people. Anyways, the main quest fortunately is over there. Food for all, let's do food for all. And I wasn't expecting this, but I cannot access the secret switch for the developer dungeon. There was a river there that prevents me access, or it could be on top of this. It's somewhere over here. I know it's here because I read it. There's a switch here, a small switch that activates the developer dungeon here on the plateau, but it'll be a challenge to find it apparently, huh? It looks like it'll be a challenge. There's also this area here. Let me... How do I access that area? Let's see. Let me go over there and see if we can get to that area. Explore the world. There are many hidden places or something like that. Yeah, the game tells you to explore the world, but then has a lot of mysteries. See, this is what I meant. See how the degree of complexity of the level design. It has a higher detail than most modern RPG games. Absolutely fabulous. It's perplexing. Absolutely perplexing that they achieve this degree of precision with this massive scope of the system of the game world. Let me see through here. There seems to be an exit here. There seems to be an exit that I... or not. No, it's another dead end. Maybe the dungeon's underground? Could it be? Because in order to access that area down there, it has to be somehow connected to this Aztec temple. I didn't cover the the historical influence in the region that I mentioned at the beginning. See, so many things to cover, and I don't cover them. Oh well. I think that for today I've already I think I've already covered enough. I think I've already mentioned through there. I think I've already mentioned enough metaphysics and crazy stuff to you people. So let me just try to get over there and that's it. I have been mentioned that I have been told my stream Eraser, your streams are like several streams in one. Kind of like the compression, the amount of compression, it's so high. It's so fucking high that after watching the stream, I feel like between the metaphysics and all of that crazy stuff, it's over at YouTube. I've been told. It's the density of elements. It's so high that I felt like I watched several streams, one after the other, with the metaphysical analysis, the abstract mental models. It's like one after the other, way too many elements, one after the other, one after the other, one after the other, and it's all condensed in such a way that it feels like an eternity has passed. Pretty good way of describing it, I would say. When I start talking about the mental perception and the crazy stuff. I'm proud of it. I'm proud of it, people. I'm proud of it. Do you like this area as much as I do? Come visit me then.
Down to the netherworld, demon.
Alright. There are two dungeons. One is the normal dungeon that we had to access. We'll ignore the boss that will attack us. As you can see here, we can verify that it... what was it? That it... that it respawned here. And that enhances replayability. Let me take... We took this one. Is it the same? Are they linked? Let's see. Because we entered... I think we got through the other... Yeah, look at that. It's there to confuse players. Look at that. It's a different entrance when compared to the one that to the one that we got through previously. Yeah, look at that. Success. Maybe this will guide us to the next region. To that southern section of the forest. Ah, the same story. Ah, I can see. This must be the counterpart of the evil side quest. Because they are the same pillars, just in green instead of red. Oh, it's a mirrored dungeon. Quite interesting, but not what I was looking for. I was looking for the connection between this and this. Interesting. Interesting. Damn it. This place was more twisted than what I originally thought, huh? Was more twisted. It had the density of the terrain was much more complex than what I originally thought, huh? Way too much. For only one stream. I thought we were going to be able to explore the jungle in one stream. The second I saw at the beginning that we didn't have any major settlements.
All powerful.
Straight up. But yeah, it still retain. It doesn't have that many side quests, but yeah, shit. It crashed again. I think the game is signaling us to that it has been it for today. Fortunately, I saved some seconds ago. It has to do with the map, huh? The map does affect the memory leak of the game. So yeah, pretty much. All right. Anyways, what time is it here? Oh, 9:20 p.m. 9:20 p.m. It's been a while. All right, ladies and gentlemen. this is it for today then. I didn't count on the jungle being so twisted, having so many secret areas that are difficult to, that I wanted. I thought we were going to be able to solve the mystery of the switch in the jungle and the harpies lair all together, but looks like we'll leave it for next time. I'll try to off stream get to the very lair of the harpy and be there kind of like immediately by the time we start the stream. We'll do that. So I'm right at the beginning. We can begin with the harpies, with the harpy queens dungeon, and then I'll look up the location of that. It's a small switch in the jungle that unlocks the developer dungeon. That I'll check out the map again, or how to cross that river, because I know where it might be in that peninsula, but there's a river that prevents access to it. As I always say, ladies and gentlemen, thanks to anyone, thanks guys to all subscribers of the YouTube, to all followers of the sorry, right now I'm mixing them. Thanks to all followers of the Twitch channel and Discord members. Thanks Crowbar for joining the Discord from the bottom of my heart. Thanks to all of you. Thanks Scarlet Dragoon, of course, as always, for accompanying me in this long journey. When I started the game, I never thought that it would be so long. This is the longest game I've ever reviewed, dethroning Shadows Awakening. The other one that was as long as this one, closer, was Shadows Awakening. It was Shadows Awakening, which was um, some crazy. It had a crazy deal, like 70% off. You have my full review on YouTube. It's right now on sale over at Steam with a crazy um, deal. Shadows Awakening, it's amazing. You have 100% completion, probably the only one ever over at YouTube. The very reason why there's a lot of people visiting the Shadows Awakening review that we did uh, 2 years ago, and as a consequence, thanks Pirik for being the 45th subscriber of the YouTube channel from the bottom of my heart. I know that the Shadows Awakening series are booming right now due to the fact that it's on that there's a deal over at Steam and everyone is getting to know that majestic, incredible game that you should definitely check out, people. Shadows Awakening. It's absolutely amazing. You have my 100% review, which is pretty much the only one on the internet, because that game was also a pretty similar case to Secret 2. It was a pretty similar case, if I, to Secret 2. So thanks to all followers of the Twitch channel and Discord members from the bottom of my heart. Once again, thanks Crowbar for joining the Discord. I deeply appreciate it. Thanks Carl Dragoon for accompanying me today. Thanks to all followers of the Twitch channel in general. Thanks to all subscribers of the YouTube channel in general, to all of you. And thanks to anyone who might have taken the time to watch this as a YouTube VOD or a Twitch VOD afterwards, after I recorded the stream and some months have passed, because I know that this series is so massive, Secret 2 is so massive, that I don't have time to upload all of the VODs at once. I'm doing it slowly because I have a lot of them to upload, because the game is simply incredibly massive. Ladies and gentlemen, today we'll leave the skill tree analysis for next time, now that I have a more comprehensive understanding of it, and we'll start with that one. But I wanted to reach this economic conclusion between the economic system of the game and the gameplay mechanics. Related to what we said at the beginning of the stream, that I restarted it to show the PS Vita showcase, we will do the PS Vita showcase, and we'll do the PS Vita showcase once we finish Sacred 2, and we will, of course, continue with the next game for analysis that I have a lot of time to choose. I've already chosen it with an impressive fix that pretty much fixed the whole physics engine of that said game. You'll be surprised. So, but first we need to finish Sacred 2. We have a lot of things to do. So, we'll do the PS Vita Ultimate Showcase as an interlude to the next game. after we finish Sacred 2. But first, we need to get to the final. We need to get to the final analysis. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure. And as I said, if you want a clear example at the beginning of my solidarity, at least from here, uh, hugely important for North and South America that we don't get a second Cuba. What's going on right now over at Venezuela? It's actually closer to the US than it is to us here in Argentina. That is right there close to the US as part of this worldwide situation. All of my solidarity to all of them. Uh, there you have a perfect example of what I always rant about. The direct effects, the direct consequence of communism. Pretty much you have it there. There's already 6 people uh, dead. There are more that we don't know, and a lot of and it's absolutely a mess. It's absolutely a mess, and it was predictable because it was pretty much a perfect replica of Cuba. So, and as I said at the beginning of the analysis, I simply cannot accept that there are people like, I don't know if you watched it. I watch a lot of geopolitics podcasts and podcasts in general because I like the topic. But uh, I they're simply it's simply absolutely unacceptable and an insult to intelligence that there are people like Hasanabi, for example. I don't know if you watch him. That guy has millions of people watching him, and he has said things like saying like what I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, that the attack on the twin towers was justified. That's a horror, and only because of that, that guy should go to jail. I'm sorry to tell you. If you say in Argentina, we had a pretty similar case. We had a pretty similar case back in 1998. Uh, same case. Instead of a plane, it was a van. It was a car that destroyed an embassy and killed a lot of the same situation as the U.S. at the very in the very same period of time. So and if you say that that was justified publicly in Argentina, for example, I don't know if you can get out if you can walk the street normally ever again. So it it draws my attention, at least personally, it's a mental perception. It draws my attention that there's a guy, this guy Hasanabi, for example, saying stupid things like that, saying horrors like that, crimes like that, because that's apology of a crime. It's a crime, actually. Saying that publicly to millions of people constantly. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on in the world, but honestly, I think it's absolutely, absolutely disgusting. Personal opinion, but but well, and I wanted to highlight that there, in what's going on right now, there you have the perfect example of what that guy is apparently defending. He and a lot of people who openly say that they are communists from the US or from Europe or from Argentina, any, let's say, more technologically advanced or, let's say, socially developed country. That we are fortunate because we live in relatively strong democracies, and saying that you're a communist from the comfort of a relatively developed democracy, and saying the horrors and crimes that he has said, I find it absolutely disgusting. And today I wanted to say it because uh, during the weekend, uh, all of this happened, and it's basically Russia, China, and Iran, all of them, the communist bloc, behind trying to create a second Cuba right here in between. It's perfectly between the U.S. and Argentina. It's perfectly between them. In the case of it's even closer to the U.S., which that's the reason. That's pretty much the reason. They want to have a second base here in in Central in South America. In this case, in that case, it's Central America, it's not South America. But well, and well, I wanted to highlight that, and I think personal, my 2 cents, my humble 2 cents. I think it's disgusting that people like the one I mentioned and others can freely say uh, to support Middle East and the rest of the killers and terrorists. When here you have the perfect consequence of what you are supporting, uh, 2 minutes away from Florida. Like like it's called cognitive dissonance. Actually, it's not understanding the consequences of what you propose, of what you support. Cognitive dissonance. Your cognitive mental perception is unable to see the consequences of what you are proposing. That's the problem with all of these new age communists. I don't know, streamers from the US. It's absolutely and from Europe. It's absolutely impossible to comprehend. Impossible to comprehend. But well, people, we'll get to the skill tree and the rest of the analysis and everything next time. As I always say, sorry if I make these small foot pages, footnotes. But in this case, it's a big mess. So I simply couldn't ignore it, just like what happened back then with 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 Ukraine and Russia and the Middle East situation. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been my pleasure. Hope you have a great week and see you all on Thursday. We'll continue with the skill tree. I'll see if I can see how to access the rest of the places of the jungle, the rest of the locations, and the Harpy Queen's nest. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been my pleasure. See you all on Thursday.